So it would depend on what the circumstances are. And again, this is an extremely individualized thing. I can't generalize it to everybody. However, most of the red flags that people worry about that program directors are going to hold in negative regard is, for example, like low board scores is one, multiple attempts on the USMLE is two, right? So lack of clinical experience in the US system is a big one now, right? Because USMLE Step 1 now is pass-fail, so it's no longer a measuring stick. For example, another red flag that some PDs will see is if you graduated more than 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, why don't you have Step 3 taken care of already? That's another question that will come up, right? And for example, like big gaps in your career, right? So there are reasonable explanations for all of these things. You just have to be able to provide them, and they must be genuine, right? You're dealing with human beings. You're dealing with doctors who are empathetic. They will understand, right? You just have to explain it in a way where you don't look chauvinistic. You do not look like you're making excuses. Making excuses is the number one problem, where a doctor will see someone who not only did poorly, but is arrogant about it, right? So that will harm you double. So an example, let's say somebody failed Step 1, right? Or barely passed. And the program director is like, hey, like what happened with your Step 1? Well, a reasonable explanation for that is like, listen, I was very early on in my medical career. There was many resources for Step 1. I didn't know which one to concentrate on. So I spread myself too thin. I didn't know I didn't have any guidance, right? And I didn't do well. However, after that, I went and I took a course. I did some extra reading. I became much more diligent in how I practice. And I did well on Step 2, or here, look, I took my Step 3 to make up for it, right? That's fine. It's a reasonable explanation. You didn't make an excuse, right? You gave a reasonable explanation, like anyone can connect with, right? Why didn't you do any clinical experience in the United States? I come from a very poor family. I didn't have any finances. That's a reasonable explanation. However, with the minimum finances that I have, I tried my best to go do research. I tried my best to go and do a telerotation or whatever it may be. You attempted, right? So there's a reasonable explanation. And again, during interview preparation, this is what we guide you to do, to customize kind of like what you're trying to say, what's in your mind, how you bring it out in a presentable manner.